Have you ever sat down with a notebook, ready to finally get your life together, and thought, this is it, I'm going to set goals, crush them, and completely turn things around? But then, 30 minutes later, you're staring at a messy page filled with half-finished lists, deadlines you already know you won't meet, and a creeping sense of panic that maybe you'll never figure it out. If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. The truth is, goal setting often feels heavier than it should. Everyone tells us to dream big and think long-term, but when your head is already spinning from school, work, relationships, or just trying to keep up with life, dreaming big feels less inspiring and more like climbing a mountain in flip-flops. That's why I want to introduce you to something I call the next step only strategy. It's a way of setting goals that doesn't drown you in pressure, doesn't demand a 10-year plan, and doesn't require a color-coded vision board, unless you want one, of course. Instead, it's about learning to shrink your focus until the mountain in front of you turns into a single, manageable step. Because here's the thing, when you're overwhelmed, the last thing you need is to plan the entire journey. You don't need to know every detail of how you'll get from point A to point Z. What you need is the clarity and courage to take the next step from A to B. And when you do that enough times, something amazing happens. You look back and realize you've already covered more ground than you thought possible. So let's start with the first mindset shift. Most people think of goals as giant end results, losing 20 pounds, landing a dream job, starting a business, or paying off debt. The problem is, when you're overwhelmed, those kinds of goals feel like staring at the top of a skyscraper while you're still standing on the sidewalk. It's intimidating. You don't need the entire building right now, you just need the next staircase. For example, instead of saying, I need to get fit this year, your next step might be as simple as putting on sneakers and walking around the block tonight. Instead of saying, I need to pay off all my credit card debt, your next step might be opening your banking app and just looking at the numbers, without judgment, without panic. Just look. That's it. Because once you've taken that small step, the next one becomes clearer. And that's the magic of this strategy. It's not about lowering your standards, it's about lowering the pressure. When you only focus on the next step, you give yourself permission to breathe. You don't have to carry the weight of the entire future all at once. You just have to carry today. Now, here's where most people get stuck. They think if they're not planning 5 years ahead, they're being lazy or unambitious. But that's not true. Think about driving a car at night. Your headlights only show you maybe 100 feet ahead, right? You don't see the whole highway, you don't see the final destination, but you still trust that if you just keep driving within that small circle of light, you'll eventually get where you're going. That's how this works. The next step only strategy is like headlights for your goals. You don't need to see the whole road, you just need to see what's right in front of you. So how do you actually apply this without overcomplicating it? Start by asking yourself one simple question. What's the next step I can take that moves me even 1 inch closer to where I want to be? Not 10 steps. Not the whole plan. Just one. Let me give you an example from my own life. There was a time when I wanted to start creating content online, but I got paralyzed thinking about everything at once: what camera to buy, how to edit, how to find an audience, how to not sound like a total robot on camera. It was too much. So I gave myself one next step: record a 30-second video on my phone, even if I never posted it. That's it. Once I did that, the next step was a little easier: record again, but this time, actually upload it. From there, momentum built, and suddenly the mountain that once felt impossible was just a series of small climbs I could handle one at a time. And the cool part is, this works no matter what area of life you're overwhelmed in. School assignments piling up? Don't write the entire essay in one sitting. Just open a blank document and type the title. Job hunting stressing you out? Don't apply to 50 jobs today. Just update one bullet point on your resume. Each next step is like a domino. Knock one over, and the rest start falling. The best part? Every time you take a small step, you prove to yourself that you're capable. That builds confidence. And confidence is what makes bigger steps possible later on. So when it feels like life is spinning too fast, remember this: you don't need to control the whole storm. You just need to take one umbrella-sized step at a time. Sometimes, the hardest part isn't even deciding what you want, it's managing the voices in your head that keep asking, what if this doesn't work out? What if I'm wasting my time? What if I fail? That fear of failing before you've even begun has probably stopped more dreams than actual failure ever did. And here's the thing: failure isn't final, it's feedback. But when you're overwhelmed, even the thought of messing up can feel like the end of the world. That's why the next step only strategy is so powerful. You're not committing to a whole life plan today. You're committing to one small action that moves you forward. If it doesn't go perfectly, that's fine. You just take the next step after that. Think of it like hiking a trail. If you keep staring at the top of the mountain, it looks intimidating, almost impossible to reach. But if you just look at the next few steps in front of you, suddenly it doesn't feel so overwhelming. One step, then another, and eventually you look up and realize you're already halfway there. That's the magic of narrowing your focus. It transforms the impossible into the manageable. And here's where most of us get tripped up. We set these massive goals and then expect ourselves to execute them perfectly, immediately, without a hiccup. We say things like, I want to get fit, but instead of lacing up our shoes and walking for 10 minutes, we try to commit to a full gym schedule, change our diet completely, and overhaul our entire life overnight. And when it inevitably becomes too much, we feel like failures and stop. But the truth is, you didn't fail. The system you were using failed you. It was too heavy, too complicated, too much at once. The next step strategy avoids that. Here's an example. Let's say you want to start a side hustle. Just the phrase "start a side hustle" can feel huge and overwhelming. It triggers a million questions. What should I do? How do I start? Will anyone even care? How will I find time? Instead of drowning in all those thoughts, try this. Ask yourself, what's my next step only? Maybe it's just brainstorming 3 ideas in a notebook. Not launching the business. Not registering a website. Just writing down 3 ideas. That's it. Then tomorrow, the next step might be picking the one you're most excited about. The day after that, maybe your next step is doing a little research online. Suddenly, you're in motion. You're moving forward without the crushing weight of doing everything at once. Another way to think about it is like reading a book. You don't flip through the last chapter before you've read the beginning. You start with page 1, then page 2, then page 3. And no one ever says, ugh, I'll never finish this book. It's got 400 pages, because we instinctively know we just have to turn the next page. Life works the same way. But for some reason, when it comes to goals, we act like we have to sprint to the end without taking any of the steps in between. That's where the burnout and the paralysis come from. And let's be honest, part of the pressure comes from comparison too. We scroll through social media and see people who look like they're miles ahead, like they've already reached the mountaintop. And instead of motivating us, it makes us feel like we're too far behind to even bother trying. But what you don't see are the thousands of tiny, unglamorous steps those people took to get there. Nobody posts about the late nights they spent doubting themselves, the mistakes they made, or the times they almost quit. You're just seeing the highlight reel, not the behind the scenes. So instead of comparing your step 1 to someone else's step 1000, keep your eyes on your own path. Because your journey isn't supposed to look like theirs. It's supposed to look like yours. Now, I want to touch on something really important here: momentum. Because once you take that first small step, the next one gets a little easier. And then the one after that feels even more natural. Momentum builds confidence. You don't wait to feel confident before taking action. You build confidence by taking action. That's the part most people miss. They wait until they feel ready to start, but the truth is, you'll never feel fully ready. The only way to create that sense of readiness is by starting, even if it's messy, even if it's small. Let me give you a personal style example you might relate to. Imagine you've got an essay due in school or a project due at work. The idea of writing the entire thing in one sitting is overwhelming, so you procrastinate. But if you tell yourself, I'll just write the introduction, suddenly it feels doable. You write the intro, and before you know it, you're already halfway into the body. That's momentum in action. The hardest part is starting, and once you're in motion, staying in motion is so much easier. And here's the thing, this strategy doesn't just apply to big life goals. It works for the everyday stuff too. Maybe your room is a mess and the thought of cleaning it all makes you want to crawl back into bed. Don't clean the whole room. Just pick up the clothes from the floor. That's your next step only. Once that's done, maybe you feel like wiping down the desk. And then maybe organizing your shelves. Before you know it, the room is clean, and you didn't even have to force yourself to do it all at once. Momentum has this snowball effect, and it all starts with giving yourself permission to do just one small thing. Not everything, not perfectly, just the next step only. And when you approach your goals like that, the pressure eases. The overwhelm fades. You start to realize that progress isn't about giant leaps, it's about consistent steps in the right direction. Now, let's talk about what happens when life interrupts you. Because it will. Maybe you're building momentum, you're taking your small steps, and then suddenly, boom, you get sick, work piles up, or something unexpected knocks you off track. This is the moment where most people give up. They think, well, I blew it, so what's the point of starting again? But here's the mindset shift. Missing a step doesn't mean the journey is over. It just means your next step is waiting for you. That's it. Imagine this, you're climbing a staircase, and halfway up, you trip and land back down one step. You wouldn't throw yourself all the way down the stairs and say, forget it, I'll never make it up. No, you'd get back on your feet and take the next step. That's exactly how goals work. You're not starting from zero again. You're picking up from where you left off. And that little perspective shift can save you from falling into the all-or-nothing trap. And here's another truth, progress isn't always visible right away. Sometimes, you're putting in work and it feels like nothing is changing. That's when it's tempting to give up. But think of it like planting seeds. You don't plant a seed today and expect a full-grown tree tomorrow. There's a season of unseen growth happening beneath the surface. Your job is just to keep watering it, one small action at a time, until eventually that growth breaks through where you can see it. Trust that your small steps are stacking up, even if you can't see the results yet. Now let's connect this to something practical you can do today. I want you to pause after this video and write down one goal that's been sitting heavy on your mind. Maybe it's related to school, your career, your health, or a personal project you've been putting off. Just pick one. Got it? Okay, now underneath that goal, write the question, what's my next step only? Not 10 steps. Not the whole roadmap. Just the next one. Maybe it's sending an email. Maybe it's watching one tutorial. Maybe it's saving $5. Maybe it's lacing up your sneakers. That's it. Do that next step today. Tomorrow, ask the same question again, what's my next step only? If you keep doing that, step by step, you'll look back weeks or months from now and be amazed at how far you've come. And let me remind you of this, goals aren't about perfection, they're about direction. As long as you're moving in the right direction, even slowly, you're winning. Because forward is forward, no matter the speed. You're not in competition with anyone else's timeline. Your pace is your pace. So when the overwhelm hits, and it will, remember, you don't have to climb the whole mountain today. You don't even have to see the peak yet. You just need to take the next step only. And then the one after that. And the one after that. Here's the takeaway I want you to leave with, big goals are achieved in small steps. Confidence is built through momentum, not waiting to feel ready. And setbacks aren't the end, they're just pauses on the way forward. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to ask yourself, every single day, what's my next step only? If you can do that, overwhelm won't control you anymore. Instead, you'll feel lighter, clearer, and more capable. Because now, you've got a strategy that works with your brain instead of against it. So, as you finish this video, don't just think about what you've heard. Take action. Write down that one goal, ask yourself that one question, and take that one step. Your future self will thank you. And remember this, success isn't built in giant leaps. It's built in tiny steps that most people overlook. But not you. You know the secret now. Next step only. Let's go.